I want to really compliment Ernest Hilaire and the people at the CIP unit in St. Lucia. I think they've done a wonderful job. We want people to come to our country who can share, like that there can be a transfer of knowledge, a transfer of technology between these countries and our countries.
I think the reality is this is about migration. In very much the same way you have skills-based migration, you have investment migration.
This is a region not defined by its size, but definitely defined by its courage, its capacity, its capability, and its firm position that it will contribute significantly to global advancement and development.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Welcome to this Monday's pre-cabinet press briefing. I am Melissa Paul, Press Secretary to the Prime Minister. As you know, St. Lucia has just concluded another successful staging of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival, which ended Sunday evening after weeks of activity across communities and major venues across the island. The festival once again highlighted the important role that culture, entertainment, and the creative industries continue to play in economic activity, tourism, and community engagement throughout St. Lucia. Additionally, from May 6th to 8th, St. Lucia hosted the Caribbean Investment Summit 2026, or CIS 2026. And this conference brought together regional heads of government, from citizenship by investment territories, industry leaders, investors, development banks, and international stakeholders for discussions on investment migration, development financing, regulatory standards, and regional cooperation. Both events formed part of a significant week for St. Lucia, one that placed the country at the center of regional conversations on tourism, investment, culture, and creative industries, also economic development. To speak further on the conclusion of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival, as well as CIS 26, I now invite the Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Minister for Tourism, Investment, Culture, Creative Industries, and Information, and also Heritage, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire.
Thank you very much, Press Secretary. I think we could probably start off with questions. I'm not sure I can necessarily need to make an opening statement after the statement already made. But suffice it to say that the Jazz and Arts Festival came to a conclusion yesterday. For me, it was one of the most enthralling final productions that I have seen in St. Lucia Jazz. It was truly a masterful production and presentation by Monica and Brandy, and for us, the what made it even special were the little taste of St. Lucia, in their overall production. And one of their dancers is, in fact, a St. Lucian, Terry Arnold, and it was really good to see him, on stage representing St. Lucia, and for the two artists to include little snippets, little taste of our music in the overall production. So I thought that was really special. And of course, the night before, Thames dancers were actually from St. Lucia. She used local dancers in her production. And that too says a lot, about how far our dance troupes, our dancers as creatives are coming. Some of them would have been in Dubai at Expo, they would have been in Osaka at Expo, and really showing the levels that they have reached. And of course, we look forward to their continued progress. Next year we go to Belgrave for the World Exposition on Culture and Sports, and I'm sure some of them will feature in Belgrave next year. I think largely the community festivals were very well organized, very well attended, and it continues to grow. We will continue to push for the community festivals to become platforms for our new and emerging artists. So as we do the development programs at a lower level, they will see those platforms as opportunities for them to showcase. And you would have seen yesterday, young Kyle Ernest would have been featured on main stage as a guitarist. We all know of Boo and some of the other more prominent guitarists, and to see a young person get an opportunity now to be on main stage and to be covered, internationally for his performance. Again, you're seeing that growth and that development. The arts component was really good this year. Personally, I believe it was probably the best that we've had in terms of the organization, the diversity of experiences that one and expressions that one would have witnessed and experienced. Free theatrical productions, the culinary night in honor of Chef Harry as part of the Icon series, and the calls for us to make it a permanent feature, to have a culinary art featuring one of our leading chefs in the country. I think is a very good idea and something that we'll push. Already we're starting to think about next year. There's a lot going through our heads in terms of how do we make the festival better each year, how to make it more meaningful, and how to make it more impactful. And very shortly, because by December we have to have a full lineup ready for announcement, so we don't have much time to start thinking about next year and how to make it better. I've not seen the numbers, the final numbers, but I did indicate to you earlier that we would expect a decline in numbers given the state of the world right now and traveling and cost of traveling. We would expect to see some challenges. So we hope next year, globally, the environment will be a lot more encouraging for travelers and for persons wanting to come to St. Lucia. I think last year we recorded arrivals from 47 different countries who came for jazz. So again, I'm looking forward to see what the numbers are for this year and to see how much of a difference it is. We believe, at least preliminarily, that the festival achieved its objectives. Really did. And as soon as I get the final numbers, I'll share with you. But let's look forward to next year. And in the next few days, we get started with Carnival. The Calypso tents will start. Already, the Carnival bands are very advanced. Some of the Carnival band events are already sold out, which tells you the huge demand. And in speaking with the Carnival bands, they do not see at this point any decline in demand for St. Lucia Carnival. We've already launched Junior Carnival, and I spoke to you last week about some of the innovations we'll be bringing in this year for Junior Carnival. So we expect Junior Carnival to be even bigger than it has been before. We'll have the schools panorama for the first time. We used to have Junior Panorama, but now we're going to have schools panorama. Last year we introduced the separation of the primary schools and the secondary schools, and brought in the soca competition that will continue. And our big new addition for this year is for 4 schools that are selected to build the costumes, to introduce a new generation of costume designers and costume builders. So I'm personally looking forward to see what the schools can produce. I think the Carnival Queen pageant is very well on its way. I'm looking forward to a really exciting competition this year. I cannot help but note there are at least 3 ladies from my constituency taking part in the pageant. So not that I'm biased or anything, but you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. The community carnivals will also start. Usually the first carnival is in my constituency in Cicero, and once again we will have carnival and our own pageant towards the ending of June. I can't remember the exact date, I think about June 22nd or something like this. So we those of you who believe that you will have a chance to rest, there is no real rest. We go straight into carnival. So you know, I noticed Mr. Daisy looking totally beaten up, and so he too much rest. All right, yeah. So we're looking forward to really exciting times. I just came out of a meeting. We're already planning for October for Creole Heritage Month and Emancipation in August. So we're hoping to make this year's Emancipation Month and October really big. In fact, probably bigger than we've done it before. We're going to put a lot of effort into emancipation this year, and you know, Creole Heritage Month in October. Very shortly, we will start the process of reviewing our cultural policy and our creative arts, you know, legislative and policy framework. We will be doing a review of the legislation for the Cultural Development Foundation, you know, to see the extent to which we can ensure that evolves with the changing times. So there's a lot happening in that sphere, and you know, we'll have a lot of exciting news over the next few months. And by the time October ends, we get ready for Christmas. So, any questions? Mr. Tench?
Good morning. Since before the resurgence of jazz in 2023, your detractors would have said that, or would have complained that jazz was not profitable. Now, I know there might be some ironies in saying that something that is publicly funded is not profitable, because you know the government would not necessarily aim for a profit in all cases. But considering this, what are the objectives that the ministry aims to achieve through the Jazz and Arts Festival, generally and also specifically financially? What are your objectives?
I mean, those distractions come up from time to time, you know, about people commenting about it's not profitable. Investing in education is not profitable in terms of dollars and cents. Investing in health is not profitable. No hospital, Victoria Hospital was never profitable. You know, OKEU as a hospital is not going to be profitable. You know, St. Jude's will not be profitable. These are public institutions, and you don't look for a balance sheet approach, you know, in terms of profit and loss. That's not what it's about. The second part of your question is probably more, you know, appropriate as an answer, that there are broader objectives. And I think we've gone through some of it already in our discussions here. First and foremost, the Jazz Festival serves as a major marketing tool for St. Lucia. I mean, St. Lucia has gotten to be known internationally in many ways because of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival. And it will continue to do so. There are people that will tell you they've been to St. Lucia for the Jazz Festival, and they know St. Lucia for the Jazz Festival. Maybe more these days, people tell you they came to St. Lucia for the wedding or the honeymoon, because we've now become a broader destination in that regard. So first and foremost, that's what it is about, you know, in terms of St. Lucia's international exposure. It also helps us a lot in terms of the positioning of St. Lucia as an events festival destination, a premium events destination, and not just jazz, carnival, you know, Creole Heritage Month, the hosting of what you call MICE, the meetings, incentives, and conferences. And we are making a big pitch in the next 2 years, because once Isla builds its conference center, which will be a 2,000-seater, an ultra-modern facility, I mean, that will take us to a different level. The hotel at Shabusha, the Grand Hyatt, was supposed to also bring to the south, and hopefully it will get underway, is going to add to St. Lucia's capacity for hosting of conferences. So the positioning of St. Lucia, both one as a marketing tool, but also positioning St. Lucia, the Jazz Festival, is part of that suite of activities that we have. We're going to make St. Lucia the premier events destination in the Caribbean. And we've repeatedly seen our Jazz Festival in the top tier of festivals in the region, and some would say even internationally. It's not a mega event in the sense of 100,000 people, but it is a very chic, sophisticated festival that has a finesse about it, and it's consistent with our overall positioning. We can push to have all-nighters in terms of our shows and whatnot, but that's not what we're about. We have a certain DNA about the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. So, I mean, people that want to say, how much money did you put in? How much money did we make in sponsorship and in ticket sales? It's never going to be about that. I can tell you, I mean, last year we had our best year ever in the history of the festival for ticket sales. Again, I've not seen the figures for this year. So the ticket sales is not too insignificant. But, you know, in the wider scheme of things, the festival is a very useful tool for St. Lucia's international marketing and international positioning as a tourism destination. And of course, now we've broadened it to be developmental. You know, part of my meeting this morning was with a delegation we had there from Nigeria, some creative arts, you know, interests, and they looking at what we're doing for our jazz festival compared to many festivals they have in Nigeria, and seeing the differences and looking for ways for us to collaborate. So there's a lot of space for that diaspora connection that we're working on. So it's also very developmental. And St. Lucia's Jazz and Arts Festival is different to anything else we have in this region. It's a national festival. It's not an event weekend. It's not a weekend where you have free big shows. The entire island gets involved. We see the community festivals. Apart from having community economic impact, we see it as an opportunity for community artists to be part of the festival, to showcase their talent, and for us to see that developmental pathway that's needed. And I think we're doing a fantastic job at that, and we'll continue to push it for it not to be a weekend event, but to be an entire festival that involves creatives all over the island. And if we get the arts component to grow even further, this year we had free theatrical productions. Don't Call Me Baby Doll, written by a St. Lucian, albeit from Trinidad, which those of you who saw it was a fantastic. It is something I actually believe that should go international, especially in a day and age when you're only talking about emigration. There's about 2 immigrants, you know, trying to get out of Trinidad, and what you go through as 2 female immigrants. It is a very powerful story. The 10-to-1, the Sparrow musical, was also excellent, and I didn't see the food play by Kendall Hippolyte, but you know, it is something which again speaks volumes of where we're going, you know, as a country. So I don't think we should get distracted by the dollars and cents and to see whether we make back all the money. And I can tell you, I'm hoping this week or next week to release the survey we did on the impact of Carnival. And I tell you, it will be really, really telling to show the impact that Carnival has on economic activity in the country.
Good morning, Mr. Minister. I do understand and appreciate the rationale behind the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival. However, I do think it's important. Numbers do matter. And I do think an economic assessment impact report would help for folks to better appreciate and understand the impact that the festival has, not just directly on ticket sales and profit, but in terms of the community vendors, your taxi drivers, and what have you. Are we going to see such a report this year coming out of this year's festival?
Well, before the report, you have to do the research. So I'm hoping this, and we've been calling, those of you who listen to my budget debate presentation, I made that point. The respective agencies have to step up. But it is not something that is normally done. And we've been calling for it. Last year, the SLTA did it just for Carnival. Because the satellite accounts, you have to have particular methodology for you to really, there are two things. Your measurement has to be one, reliable and valid. You have to actually measure what you say you're measuring by having the right, methodology. And secondly, it has to be reliable. You can't use it this year, you get one data, next year you use it and it is not well, you get a different set of data and you can't compare year to year. So those methodological issues, there are specialists, there are people trained in the country to do those things, and international support as well. You don't just do those surveys and say, oh, we did a survey and it showed X, Y, and Z, and next year you can't even replicate the same survey. So these are scientific processes by qualified statistician and researchers. So we've been calling on the statistics department. They've started the process. I think we get in there. It's not something you do overnight, but I would like you, because I have to go into the Minister of Finance and say, Chief, we need X, Y, and Z for Carnival, for the different festivals, for jazz. And the more data I have to show the impact of this, that if you put $10 million in it, you'll get 4 million in ticket sales. You'll get X amount, in terms of, the transportation sector, X amount in the food and beverage sector, X amount in the accommodation sector. I want that data so I can show you that Carnival's impact was $35 million over 1 week, that kind of stuff. So it justifies what you're asking for. So you are right. I would love to have it, but I cannot tell you you'll get it this year, or to the extent that we would want to have it. We will have a sense. But in terms of a real scientific comprehensive report, I'm not sure we'll have that this year.
Okay, I asked a question last week. You did respond, but I'm still
asking again.
You again about the use of explicit language on stage. We did see it on main stage over the weekend. Are we at a point where we just accepted that this is the norm, or going forward will there be some sort of context placed on, well, this is an adult-only show? Be aware. We need to have some clear direction as to what is it that we're now accepting and what is it that we're going to put restrictions to. What say you on that?
No, I don't think we should ever accept explicit on stage. I mean, we should not. And it's written in the contracts that they're not supposed to do it. I mean, any conversation in some of those artists will tell you, they apologize that it happened, whatnot, and again, one thing I've learned in dealing with creatives is that, and that's why they are creatives, because they have their own mental processes and their own ways of dealing with issues. And some of you in here are creatives in your own right in terms of what you'll produce. Sometimes you get criticized for how you present a concept, an idea, a phenomenon, and sometimes people wonder, but wait, how could you have said what you said? How could Ryan have printed the article he did last week? Wow, why? I'm not taking it true. No, it's true. I mean, but when you deal with creatives, sometimes you just have to, understand them for who they are.
My question: are we at the point where we accept that?
No, we should never accept it. We should always remind them of the nature of what we have and what not. But I don't think we should go into a kind of mindset of almost suffocating expression. I'm not a person for that. I don't think that. But I'm also aware of our broader social responsibility. There are families, there are parents there who don't want their children to hear the explicit on stage, although the children listen to it at night on their computers and on their phones. But the fact is, in a public space, what you do in your private space is largely your responsibility. But in a public space, we must always remind them that's just not acceptable. But at the same time, you have to recognize some of the creatives, they express themselves and keep reminding them of it's not allowed.
Why not a policy of not contracting?
Of not contracting. That's why I just said I don't support that. I think if anybody persistently, deliberately, intentionally comes out to do something like that, you say, look, I don't want that kind of artist on my stage. But there are artists that in a moment might say something and then you have to take it for what it is. I mean, if you have an artist is somebody who would come and preach violence and obscenities and homophobic statements and, all kinds of, abuse of women. You don't want that kind of artist on your stage, so you don't contract them. But there are artists, in moments of expression, we just be a little more colorful than they should be.
A few of the Caribbean islands have addressed this issue, and particularly against the backdrop of the Jazz Festival and the culmination and main stage. What is the government's position? Why has there not been a pronouncement, position with regards to the hantavirus situation?
Well, I think the Ministry of Health did say something. I don't know that we have a threat of the hantavirus in St. Lucia. I leave that to the competent authorities to deal with. I stayed my section on some of those things.
Good morning, Minister.
Hi, morning.
The CIS 26 conference just ended. Are there any new initiatives or agreements coming out of that would affect investment in St. Lucia and CIP?
Not really. The investment was, for us, was a huge success because it gave us an opportunity to update the market of where we are in St. Lucia. We've been through 2 rough years in St. Lucia. I don't need to recount it. And I know we have some rough, years ahead because of the nature of the industry. But it was an opportunity for us to sit to the market where we are as St. Lucia, and each of the other islands had a chance to do the same, and how we've progressed. And I think it was very well received. St. Lucia is a premier destination, and that there's always tremendous interest in St. Lucia. And it was an opportunity for some of them to actually come to St. Lucia and see physically what's happening in the country. And I think that the responses I got, people were really impressed with what they've seen happening in the country. And their own soundings too, because they move around, they speak to St. Lucians, they ask questions, and there was a chance for us to really state. Of course, we need to also visit them, the players out there, and update them of the changes that we've made, how we continue to strengthen the programs. Of course, when it's safer for some of us to go out, certain parts of the world will do so. But, we need to continuously update our international partners and other stakeholders of the progress that we've made in St. Lucia. And over the next 2 to 3 years, St. Lucia will grow tremendously in terms of property development, tourism sector, and also as well as events. I mean, I think people are looking to St. Lucia, and it gave us an opportunity over the weekend, because quite a few of the delegates attended some of the events around St. Lucia, and they were really excited with what they saw, and some of them are interested in bringing activities to St. Lucia. So, I mean, having over 300 delegates from all over the world come in at this time of the year, it was a very challenging operation to do, as you can imagine. But I think it was a huge success for us. I hope my friend Dale, okay, I was about to say, I hope you're laughing.
Okay, so good morning. I wanted to ask a question in the aftermath of Labor Day. So this year marks an approximate 100th anniversary of the establishment of the 5-day work week. I wanted to know, since there are countries in the world that are considering a 4-day work week, especially considering advancements in productivity and technology, is that feasible in certain industries in St. Lucia? At what point do you think it will be feasible?
I mean, the honest truth is that I don't know, and maybe the Minister of Labour can best opine on those issues. I have my own personal views about it. I have a 7-day work week. And I don't know that I can ever adapt to a 5-day phallus or 4-day. But at a broader level, there is a very strong call. And even in my own past experiences when I have managed enterprises, I'm not one who believes in this rigid 8 hours a day work week or 4 days against 5 day. I'm always more oriented towards output. I give you a task to perform, you perform the task successfully, and we move on. There's nothing inherently productive about mandating somebody must sit at a desk for 8 hours for 5 days a week. I mean, it's no measure of productivity. So, if one can find a way, especially with mothers, to be able to accommodate the other chores that they perform, knowing our society for what it is, I'm always for it. If I ask somebody to prepare a document for me, and they said, look, they want to stay home today and work on it and not come to the office, why not? Why does a professional, person be asked to come to work for 8 o'clock and to leave at 4:30? I mean, if you have chores to do, you can come at 10 and leave at 6 in the night, why not? But that's my own mindset, my own thinking. I don't run the public service, so I can't really opine on this. But for me, it's more about output. We have work to do, we just go and get it done. That's it.
Okay. And it's Reading Month. I'd like to think that's not just to be celebrated in schools, but in all of society. So are there any St. Lucian authors that you think would have made an impact over the course of our history and that you think could be spotlighted in the moment or at other points throughout the month?
Well, I have to be careful how I answer that one. There is a friend of mine who is an author. She's never lost to comment on Facebook, especially when I make my comments. No, I'm talking about Dawn French, who I know quite well. So I know she's a big champion for writers and recognition of writers. But we've had some very distinguished writers in the past, and we don't have a literary festival in St. Lucia. Sometimes I wonder if we wait too much on government to do everything and to get everything going. The strength of civil society sometimes you really want a stronger civil society, that a lot of those things can be done and can be organized.
So Arthur has been making an effort, to be fair.
Sorry?
I said Sir Arthur Lewis community.
Sir Arthur Lewis is very progressive when it comes to those things. Yeah, there's a team at Sir Arthur. I mean, I don't want to mention specific names, but they do themselves. They really do. Spoken word, the literary side of it, they really try. You have to say hats off to them. They do try. And it's quite good, to see the effort that has been made. But yeah, I mean, as the Ministry of Creative Industries, it is always our responsibility to lend support within the confined resources we have to support local writers. I know I'm supposed to read at a couple of schools in my constituency, so that's my contribution.
And are there any more plans from the ministry's standpoint to celebrate Reading Month this month?
Well, I think education takes care of that, not creative. Education
okay.
Takes care of that.
All right.
Yeah.
So I would have heard you at least go through that, at least passively, during your presentation to the House. But I think a more pointed question towards you on that would be more dispositive in terms of a broader outlook for investment in St. Lucia. So you've come out of the CIS. We've seen the government has now invested in the IFC, and we're seeing the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. We're also seeing that developing nations have really abandoned the sort of 20th century mode of nation building. So we're seeing countries now going more in along the lines of investment. So as opposed to having natural resources, we're going to invest in public companies and countries that do have them. And this would augur well for a country like St. Lucia with, as you said, limited natural resources. And you've been asked before, what would the CIP do if global demand for our citizenships decreases? So as investment minister, what is your general vision for investment in St. Lucia? So that even where, as it always happens, demand fluctuates, the unit and let's say other public entities are able to generate revenue with only the resource of money, as the case may be. Right. So using the money that the state has to generate revenue to fund our national development. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll tell you, first of all, let's look at investment in terms of we continue to attract foreign direct investment. St. Lucia must always be seen as a country of laws, as a country that respects investment and facilitates investment. Also to a country that really promotes the ease of doing business. You want people who have capital to want to come to your country and invest, and for them to not have to face so many bureaucratic hurdles and challenges, because there's a cost to that. There's a cost to it. So when you want to get involved in investment, you don't want to be delayed and your capital is tied up in processes. You rather spend it somewhere else and get an ROI, even if it's a lower ROI. But at least you get something back on your capital rather than it be, locked up in St. Lucia waiting for DCA approval, waiting for all those different processes. So which is why we've placed a lot of emphasis on the ease of doing business. And one of the first activities I did when I became Minister of Commerce is to get the department to organize, and they did it very well, Ease of Doing Business Forum. So let's get an update on where we are and what's the roadmap for moving forward. And the report will be coming out very soon, so you'll get a copy of it. So you want investment, both foreign and domestic, to find it easy to invest in the country. But more important for us as St. Lucians is for us to be able to create a landscape where our indigenous capitalist class or business class can thrive. And that's not an ideological position. This is a reality of what we need for us to develop. The truth is, we cannot finance our development by depending so much on international cooperation and support anymore. We don't get the low interest development loans anymore. When the Prime Minister of Finance delivers his budget and he says he has to go out and raise capital, it's almost commercial rate. So there we are as a small country, and they said we have middle income countries. We know the reality. I mean, okay, we're not as bad as some other countries in the world, but we still have to make sure things happen in the country. He has to raise money. And then the amount of grants we used to get before, we are noticing they're declining significantly. So we have to take charge of our own prosperity, for our own prosperity. But how do you prosper? For you to prosper, you must produce goods and services. That's how you prosper. And more, you have to export it. Because if you're just producing it only for your use, but you're not earning. So you have to earn, so you have to export. Tourism is an export industry in many ways. People come in, they use your services, and you earn out of it. So you, in a sense, they come in here, but it's exporting the beauty and hospitality of our country. So some of the niche areas we have, the CMOS, the chocolate, the condiments, let us create those niche capacity areas, and for us to be able to export to the world. When you do that, you earn more money. So we need to say to our young entrepreneurs institution, that's why the Youth Economy Agency is a powerful tool, which is why I announced that we're going to be set up a small business development center in St. Lucia to build on SEDU, the Small Enterprise Development Unit, that already started evolving towards that center. So we can say to St. Lucians, have confidence that you can own the business space in St. Lucia. If we continue to think that the business space in St. Lucia belongs to a very small elite, a very small group, we're not going to move forward as a country. Because there's only so much that small business elite can do. So the average person must believe, if I have an idea, a feasible, viable idea, I want to translate it into a business that will create employment and earn revenue. But where do I go? And that is what those services we put in place will do. We've done it for the youth economy. You have an idea as a young man, you can go to the youth economy, you can get the support, you can start your business. 50% of those businesses might fail, but if 50 succeed, we've made progress. And we have to see it that way. Again, you can't look at all government things as dollars and cents and whether you're making profit like some people want you to believe. Again, they're trapped in their own political opportunism. But the point is, we have to say to our people, believe in our capacity to take charge of our prosperity. So the digital content creators, those who can develop apps, those who can be involved in cybersecurity, these are jobs you can do from your home. You don't even need to travel overseas to do. And those who can produce, our fashion industry, Again, I announced during the budget presentation that we will be setting up a fashion innovation facility for our designers and our seamstresses and whatnot. And we can do more of that. And because, like you said, people are not thinking nation-state confines anymore. They're thinking global stage. You can compete on the global stage once you have a good product, a good service. So let us think, start changing the mindset of solutions into thinking, I can do it, I have an idea, and government is providing the support for us to be able to do it. And that's the critical element that's missing in this country. That support service, that support infrastructure, ecosystem to take ideas from ordinary solutions to reality.
Just two more from me. One of them is a follow-up to what I just asked. Many critics of the tourism industry would argue, and it might be a fair argument, that the nature of the industry is such that most of the money generated in St. Lucia does not stay in St. Lucia, or that if it stays in St. Lucia, it does not go to workers. And I think, I mean, at least in every country where tourism is the main product, there is some difficulty in towing the line between investors certainly receiving on the profits and workers getting a fair wage. In all of this, the government has to ensure that public services and utilities and so on are upgraded with time. So as tourism minister, how is it that you are going to toe the line where, okay, so we get more investment, but we ensure our workers get paid fairly, and we're able to support, you know, the public infrastructure that we must support as a government?
Well, I mean, you've gone back to some of the old, not old, but some of the traditional neo-colonialist assessment of our political economy, and you are right, but we've moved past that. And it's up to us to be imaginative and innovative, which is why we started and really pushing strongly the community tourism, authority and the work that it's doing. So let me take what you're saying, which is so right. For every dollar of value a tourist provides for St. Lucia, when I say provide, I mean, pays. Yeah? A significant part of it doesn't even reach St. Lucia. So if they pay in, an agency overseas, they pay for their accommodation, they pay for, the flight and everything else. The accommodation, when there's a hotel or whatever, the monies might stay overseas. They send over to St. Lucia just what is needed for operational purposes. So on that dollar, maybe 8 cents, 9 cents really circulates in the economy. But we have to find a way where we earn more from that dollar, or cause that tourist to spend more so our people earn more. So, which is why the ATV tours are very, very significant. I just use ATV. But on that ATV tour, there's a stop at a local bakery. So the local baker sells bread. There's a stop by a lady who makes cassava. They make some money too. There's a cultural group that performs at the top of the hill before they go down into the valley. They make some money too. So just that one experience can have about 4 groupings that earn from that tour, and therefore earns more from the tourist dollar. We have to be able to think of how we can create more experiences. We're just about to, in July, we're hoping to open the first underwater sculpture park. It has its historical benefits, but more individuals now can enjoy our marine ecosystem, earn more money for the community and ancillary, the young men who become divers, the young men who maintain the park, the people who sell food and drink on the beach, or people who go in to dive to see the underwater sculpture park. You create more and more of those activities. Then you say to St. Lucians, start owning accommodation. There is a significant part of the visitors who come in who don't want to be in hotels. They want to be in local communities. So, which is why we do the Airbnbs and the home accommodation options, and we finance it, because we want more St. Lucians to become owners of the industry. The boat boys, the taxi drivers. Again, let's find more and more ways that we can make that tourist spend more money, or for us to get more of that dollar. So it's not just employment at the hotels. there's an entire set of linkages. The fisherman who brings in fish, it goes directly to the hotels. I guess that want to know that the fish they're eating was not frozen fish caught a month ago. They want to know this was caught within 24 hours. They want to know that some of the fruits they use are locally produced, which is why a lot of the hotels now doing farm to table. So they can say to the guests, this is actually in our garden at the back of the hotel. We grew all those seasonings, so they make arrangements with farm groups so they can tell the guests that actually came from this farm in Auger or this farm in Millet, because travelers now want to know those things exist. People are traveling for a purpose as well. People are not just traveling just for the sake of lying on the beach anymore. There are people who still do that, but we see new trends developing, and these trends offer opportunities for us. So there are people that will criticize the tourism industry, and rightfully they should. But it's the same way we criticize the aluminum and bauxite industry in the 60s by Michael Manley, that we were supposed to just produce a raw material and send it overseas. We are criticized. You buy Milo. Where did the cocoa come from? The third world. We sent it overseas. They they process it into Milo and Ovaltine and send it back to us at 3 times the price we sold a pound of cocoa to them. That's been the history of underdevelopment in our part of the world. But now technology and innovation is allowing us to create more spaces for us to take charge of our development.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, as you'd imagine, I'm passionate about this, the arts. So we'd have seen 3 theatrical productions and certainly the spoken word. But there is a call for the arts to be more commonplace. So as opposed to it only being confined to the Jazz and Arts Festival, perhaps every month or so we get a play. And there's a school of thought that would say to you, the more art there is, the better it becomes. Because a playwright might say, I have this play, I'm going to put it on for jazz. But he figures to himself, if I put it on in February, by July I need a better play, a bigger play. If I only needed, let's say, 30 helpers, I now need 50 because it's a bigger scale. The same thing would go for the visual artists. If a painter has to produce something every month, by the time May comes, he figures to himself, I need to do something that's going to blow people's minds. So as the minister responsible for creative industries, how would you, and I know you've said that you're reviewing the cultural policy, so how would you strengthen the agencies that exist to ensure that art becomes more commonplace in St. Lucia?
Again, you're right, and it's something we are discussing within the CDF. We actually look to put in more resources, and I said to the team last week, we probably should start thinking about commissioning a number of plays in St. Lucia. So every year we commission maybe 3 plays, whatnot, and government provides the resources to commission the plays. So it's something we've started talking about, and we probably will extend the discussion to include the local theater groups and to see how we can support them more. Even at the school level, to have school theater competition, young playwrights at school, young directors at school, young actors and actresses at schools, and have a competition and see which school produces the best play. So there are a number of options we have, and you are right. And I think a society that has a very vigorous appreciation of creative expressions is a better society. Is a more sophisticated society, a more tolerant, a more understanding society. And we need to push that. Our people have to get a little more sophisticated in those things. It cannot always be what you consume on the mobile devices from external sources that should define our sensibilities. We have to produce that's reflection of who we are, our own, origins in a sense, for want of a better word. Thank you.
Hi, Minister. 2 questions from me. The ECC governor would have recently stated that member countries should start measuring the success of the tourism industry based on visitor expenditure rather than arrival numbers. Is this something we do, or is this something that you agree with? And if so, how would we go about doing those measurements?
Well, totally. I mean, my first press conference as Minister of Tourism, I said exactly that. I would never want to be measured by tourism arrival numbers. I'd rather be judged in terms of the work of the government by the impact that the arrival have in the country. And again, I said so during my budget presentation, I don't want to go over it anymore. I mean, the report showed that there was a decline in tourism numbers compared to 2024. And they said it affected the overall growth figures because of the impact, especially on the food and beverages sector. And my view is, I'm not sure the totality, because of the restructuring of the industry that's taking place, the traditional means of measuring it has to be updated, in my view. Now, I'm not the expert in methodology. Many years ago, I taught research methodology at Cave Hill, so I can't even remember most of those things. But, we have to be able to measure it. You have to measure the impact of home accommodation in this country. There are about 3,000 rooms in St. Lucia, and our own data shows there's significant increase in visitor spend in home accommodation for all the communities in St. Lucia, and we have to measure that. We have to account for that. So you're right. We have to find, but the appropriate way of measuring the full impact of the tourism industry. Let's put it that way. But that's not for me to decide. Again, there are experts whose job it is to do so.
Final question. I'm not sure if you've addressed this before, but on March the 25th, 2 new CIP investment options were introduced. Can you just explain what they are, the National Infrastructure Improvement Project and the Global Marketing Program?
Yeah. Well, the first one you'd recall was a program we had launched, and the leader of the opposition had gone to court, questioning whether we had done it the right way, whether or not it should have been done the way we did it, and raised a lot of questions. We had to go to court and defend it. We thought that it's a case we can win, but then again we did some reflection. Do we go in a prolonged battle in court? Appeal here, we win, he appeal, we win, he appeal, we win, he appeal, and eventually reach. And 4 years later, we're still in the court process. And put a halt, In fact, what he did was to stop $100 million investment in infrastructure in this country. That's what he did, effectively. And I think they felt very happy with themselves. They had stopped us, from doing the program. Sometimes it is said it is not the outcome they intend to pain you, but they intend to let the process pain you. And as somebody who's been through a lot of processes, I know that mindset that they believe the process must hurt you, not the outcome, because they know they can never win in the outcome. But if they make you if it hurt you for a prolonged period of time, it will destroy you. But what we did instead was to pull back, review, and all the complaints they had, we catered for it. Sometimes you can't be too arrogant in government. Sometimes you have to believe that what you're doing is right and pursue it. But there are times when you really need to step back and to take into account. And we did that. So some people say, we want to do what we want to do. And I don't even think it's arrogance. I really believe it is a belief in your vision and in what you're doing. So we have resumed the infrastructure option. We believe we've covered all the bases. We know we went to court. He had asked for an injunction. The court threw out the injunction and said there was no basis for the injunction. So we feel quite assured that we are on the right track. And the second one, the Global Marketing Fund, for me is a very special initiative. I think I've said so here before, we need to think of ways in which we can get St. Lucia to be in the front of most travelers' minds. When you're going to travel, you have to think of, where do I travel to? St. Lucia must pop up in your mind. When Julian Alfred won the gold medal at the Olympics, St. Lucia was the most Googled country for about 3 days. Everybody wanted to know about St. Lucia. We have to do things that our country as a destination is in the forefront of the traveler's mind. They may not come to St. Lucia, but they will think about coming to St. Lucia, and then we have to cause them to come to St. Lucia. Our creatives, our, chefs, our musicians, we must take them globally. We must be able to take them to the biggest events in the world and to showcase them. And we have to start entering those spaces. Our fashion designers, whether it's bags or whether it's clothing, we need to have the resources to put them and give them that exposure. Our exports, our CMOS, our chocolate, again, we need to go global. We are a small island, but we can go global. And therefore, we need the resources to do so. The government by itself doesn't have enough resources to do so. So we're going to use CIP. We're going to say to investors to invest in this fund. And for us to be able to get the resources to do so. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll be making a major announcement. And I'm sure Ryan wants to hear that one. An association with an international football club. And then we're going to be able to take St. Lucia into a space it has never been in before. And we believe that would be, quite significant for our country. So that's the second project.
Are any of those projects, particularly the first one, do they have any subscriptions or anything like that?
Any what?
Do they have any investors already going into those two?
Yeah, well, we had started it. Remember, we had stopped it because of the court case.
So the National Infrastructure Improvement Project is kind of the resumption or the improvement
of what we had before. Okay. Yeah. So we had stopped it. So for almost 2 years, we had applicants just there waiting, for their files to be processed. But we had to stop it because of the impending court case. But we've now cleared that barrier.
A couple of weeks ago, you did promise an update on the grants for creatives. Do you have that update yet?
I haven't had a chance to go to the ministry to get a briefing on those things. As you can imagine, it's been a long 2 weeks. By the way, did you all ask Hamilton not to come here today? Where is he? Ryan, where is Hamilton?
Resting.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm a little disappointed my friend Dale didn't ask me any questions, but you didn't come for me. But who you came for? You good? Yeah.
Tomorrow, May 12th, the Prime Minister will participate in the STEP Caribbean Conference 2026 being hosted in St. Lucia at the Sandals Grand. STEP is a global professional association focused on family inheritance, succession planning, wealth structuring, and international financial services with members across more than 95 countries. The conference is expected to attract delegates from across the Caribbean and international jurisdictions, further positioning St. Lucia within important global financial and professional networks.
This year, a business facilitation unit will be established in the Department of Commerce to oversee the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business agenda. Mr. Speaker, a long-standing issue for the private sector has been an electronic single entry window. This issue has been on the table for discussion for almost 20 years. This is a significant ease of doing business cost reduction initiative for the private sector, which will eliminate duplication of entries, multiple applications for licenses or permits with broader agencies, and in-person visits to submit applications or payments.
We are finalizing the National Strategic Plan for Health 2025 to 2030, which we started work on in 2025 with the assistance of the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization. So, Mr. Speaker, we are finalizing a plan. The plan is complete, but we now have to include nutrition.
In 2026-27, we'll place greater emphasis on nutrition and healthy living. We will convene a national nutrition conference, initiatives to ensure balanced diet and portion control, expand workplace wellness and physical activity programs. Mr. Speaker, the fight against non-communicable diseases must begin not in the hospital, but in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities.
You know, Mr. Speaker, the cost of healthcare to the economy, most estimates put it at 1 to 8% of your GDP. And if you look at the OECS and St. Lucia in particular, it's costing St. Lucia, the St. Lucian economy, between $250 to $300 million just for NCDs, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, and some of the cancers and so on. Just imagine that, Mr. Speaker. If you take $300 million annually every year, $250 to $300 million, it's a cost. So focusing on healthcare and the work in healthcare is important because it costs us money.
Now, we've all heard of the complaints and the frustrations expressed especially by small manufacturers and those aspiring to come to market with innovative products, but they've not been able to do so. Not because of a lack of talent or drive, but due to a combination of situational factors, including the high cost of materials and procurement of machinery that they need to use in producing their goods. That has been a historical problem. Well, I'm pleased, Mr. Speaker, and the Minister of Finance mentioned it, that we have plans to provide our manufacturing sector with an innovative answer to this long-standing challenge.
Mr. Speaker, the aspiration that cottage industries would mature and export to third countries is slowly disappearing, as they require onerous psychosanitary and processing standards. This means that to continue in business, many of our small manufacturers will need governmental support. It is for this reason that the Department of Commerce, Invest St. Lucia, Export St. Lucia, and the Ministry of Agriculture are aggressively pursuing the establishment of national processing and innovation facilities to support MSME manufacturers.
More specifically, Mr. Speaker, it is a priority for me as Minister responsible for Commerce to establish a production and processing facility to bridge the gap or that missing asset in our manufacturing landscape, Mr. Speaker. The proposed production facility will operate in accordance with international standards for food safety and manufacturing, including being hazard analysis critical control points and good manufacturing practices compliance. And this is very important. If we are going to export to the US, to the UK, to the EU, we need to meet those international standards.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now present Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre, who is also the Minister for Finance, Justice, National Security, Constituency Development, and People Empowerment. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. First of all, before you ask me, I want to express my condolences to the families of the people who lost their lives in Castries, particularly in the George Charles Boulevard over the weekend. This morning I met with the High Commander of the police force this morning before I came here, and they've given me the assurance that they will take no necessary steps to bring the people who committed these crimes to justice. It's a very worrying situation and everyone is concerned, but the police have assured me that they are doing all in their power to take all legal means to bring a situation firstly under control and to arrest the people who committed these crimes. This is all I can say at the moment on the situation in as far as the murders were concerned.
Have you had a chance to, good morning Mr. Prime Minister,
morning.
have you had a chance to speak with any other families so far?
I have not had a chance, I have not spoken to any of the families. These situations are very emotional, so I have to be careful. But I know the lady who passed. I know her very well. I know very well. I know the lady who passed very well.
Speaking on crime and justice, we heard of the landmark case last week, one of the largest awards to a defendant, a case against the state. In recent years, you have been speaking a lot about swift justice and about justice delayed. We saw this case spanning a course of, 20 years or what have you. Just comment, I know you're probably not at liberty to comment on that matter in particular, but I would ask, is the state going to appeal this matter, one? And I'd just like your feedback, your comment. Just go back to the whole delayed justice that we've been seeing over the last few decades in St. Lucia.
You see, I'm very happy you bring that question up, because particularly the opinion makers in this country, they seem to not to make the distinction between the separation of powers. There is a separation of powers that is clear, and sometimes in fact most of the time it cannot be violated. Give you an example. The magistrate in the court, somebody is arrested for an illegal firearm. What the legislature does is have the laws. The laws say that somebody can be put in prison for life, etc. The magistrate says the bail is $5,000. That's it. And we say these things very light, not understanding. And I'm saying, and these are some things we have to do all the time. We pass the laws, we put the resources in. We've just had the Swift Justice program. We have put the resources, we've put the money, everything in. But the fact I have no control of what happens in the court. Absolutely no control. So in many of these cases, it's a matter of the system having what the system calls its own checks and balances. So in terms of sharing blame, all I can do in the legislature is to give the resources for it to happen. That's all I can do. This justice delayed, a very serious issue. Very serious issue. There are people on remand for years. But we have another problem. We have a shortage of criminal lawyers. Because lawyers don't think the criminal justice system is lucrative enough. So they have the problem of criminal lawyers. So with the state must find lawyers, particularly in these murder cases. It's a very complex situation that doesn't call itself to a ready answer. It's not something that you can answer. We have many people who have given the answer right away. It's not a matter of if a situation. It's not black and white. There are many shades of gray. The justice delay things for decades, situation that we are trying. This is why I've set up this Swift Justice Court, a dedicated court with a judge to deal with this backlog of cases. And I hope that we get some success in that matter. But this one, the Attorney General will have to advise me whether he's going to be appealed or not. But it's a huge amount. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Whenever citizens speak of crime and law enforcement, usually the conversations would stop at the police making an arrest. But the police themselves would tell you, even though they arrest a suspect, that might just be the first of 1,000 steps before the matter would go to trial or something like that. And oftentimes you hear law enforcement, you hear attorneys speaking about the delay, as you've said, in the courts. Sometimes courtrooms are not ready, sometimes They have issues getting evidence. Sometimes they have issues getting witnesses. What has your administration done, and what do you plan on doing in the future to ensure, in many ways, that everything is there, and that the system runs smoothly?
What have I done? A long story. Let's look at recently. Recently, we've put in place the backlog, the case, the court to deal with the backlog of cases. That is significant, because you have thousands of cases, hundreds of cases that have been there for years. That's significant. We have a dedicated court for that. It will be announced in the budget. I'm going to give scholarships, 2 scholarships a year for policemen to go to study law, and they can be dedicated prosecutors. That's in the long run, but it's a step we've taken. We've enhanced the situation as it regards the forensic lab. The capabilities of forensic lab have been enhanced. The forensic lab is doing good work, and because of the resources they've had, they are doing more and more. We are enhancing the witness protection. A big issue is witness protection. Witnesses are afraid to give evidence because they fear that there may be repercussions if they give evidence. We've changed the Evidence Act in terms of how can evidence be delivered and how can evidence be received. So there's a whole series of steps that the government has taken to enhance the justice system. But it's not, first of all, it takes resources, and secondly, it takes time. Because in our system, you're considered innocent until proven guilty. This is a very important point. You are innocent until proven guilty. So it's a matter of steps. It's a long process. Sometimes it gets me impatient, but fact is, we have to go through the process. But I see a glimmer of hope. I think the backlog of cases, the judge has been dealing with many of these cases. You notice what we've done in terms of the buildings for the court. You've seen in the mall, the Eastern Caribbean Court. In the mall, we are building a house of justice to have all the courts in one place. It's a series of steps, but it's something that will take time. It's not a situation that you can fix today or tomorrow. It'll take time. Many governments have tried, many governments are trying, but I'm saying to you, my government has taken some serious steps you can identifiable steps to cause the system of justice to be improved. Identifiable steps that we've taken.
Just a follow-up. In your budget presentation, you would have outlined the government's legislative agenda, and so that would have included amendments to certain pieces of legislation, like you'd have said the Evidence Act and the introduction.
Criminal Code.
Yes, and the introduction of 2 important things: judge-only trials and plea deals. Yes, plea deals. Do you have an idea when these
plea bargaining?
Right.
Yes.
Do you have an idea when these bills will be brought?
There's another major issue: to find judges. I tell you what, these things when you from the outside looking in, if you're in opposition or if to find judges. There's a big issue to find people who want to serve on the bench. Big issue, big problem. It's either not lucrative enough, or they can't take the hassle, the security issues of being a judge. So it's a very complex situation, and that is why the answer to that is we must try our best to see if we can get our children from an early age to be able to control their emotions, to improve the way they deal with each other, so the environment will call for less intervention from the security forces. And this is why my government is paying special emphasis on early childhood education. That's why we are seeing what we can deal with school attendance at the forefront, at the basics, because we have to see if we can get less and less people to be exposed to the justice system. And this is why we are taking these steps. But it's a very complex situation that we have to work together. Civil society, the politicians, the press, work together as a solution. Because as I've always said, when these things happen, the country suffers. The immediate person will be the politician, the prime minister, but the country, ultimately is the country that is what will suffer.
Okay, good afternoon. So a few questions from me, starting with the homicides over the weekend. One of them was, as you would have mentioned, your colleague, so to speak.
My colleague. My
yes.
Constituent.
Your constituent.
Thank you.
Yes, the woman.
I was ready for my colleague on that.
Sorry. Well, yes, I meant a woman who you said that you knew reasonably, who was killed.
I know.
Yes. So it may be a bit disheartening for some people to know that on Mother's Day weekend a mother was killed. Is there anything that you would say to persons who may feel a bit of a sense of terror, especially?
I share the concerns. I share the concerns, and this is why I met the police in the morning. For the first thing in the morning, I met them. I've been in touch with the commissioner. I share the concerns. Yeah, I share the concerns, and the police will do what they have to do. Will continue to do what they have to do. It's got to be the police to take a decision from there. The police have to do what they have to do.
Yes, of course. Well, what I was more so asking is women in particular and mothers of, these are unconfirmed reports, but I'm told that she was a mother of somebody who was also a victim of gun violence as well. So persons who may fear that, will my son's, conflicts result in my,
it's a reasonable concern. And again, you have to put put all the elements together. Is that we have witness protection, so people cannot be afraid to give evidence. You see, it's very complex. Before, people gave evidence willingly. People just went and gave evidence. Right now, people don't, because they're afraid of repercussions. You have to spend money on witness protection. Sometimes people have to happen out of the state. So it's a different element that the government is doing. Last week we had a conference on witness protection where we could see whether we could expand the scope. But again, these things take money. Cost a lot of money, and the health and security levy is only 2.5%. All these things are health and security. Only health and security. Right now, look at the resources we're spending on the police force. More recruits, 80 more recruits coming direct from the public. Right now, they began the process of vetting for more recruits. Money on police stations, money on equipment for the police. All these things take money, and we have to set our priorities right. But what the government is doing is we're trying to deal with it at two levels: enforcement and the softer issues. The softer policies, enforcement and the softer issues. Enforcement, equipping the police, giving the police manpower, giving them vehicles, giving them all the resources that they ask for. And the softer policies, early childhood education, helping mothers in the upkeep of their children, helping them in several ways from both assistant mothers, not only with $1,000 that the press speaks about. We're helping them with maternal care, free prenatal care, that's free in the country now. So it's a series of steps we're taking, but it's a gradual work in progress. We will not get up tomorrow and find the situation has changed. It's a gradual work in progress, but a series of steps that we are taking to make the situation more palatable. I agree with you. If people feel afraid, they have a reason to feel afraid, particularly in the circumstance where people got murdered on the weekend. And I share the concern. This is why we put in what we can do, put in place to help alleviate the situation. I wouldn't say solve, alleviate the situation.
Okay. And so in Antigua and Barbuda, it was reported a couple of weeks ago that they will be universalizing university education. Now, I know that we have been taking universalizing university education. So I know that we have been taking incremental steps. But I just wanted to know when might this be, possible in St. Lucia for, persons who are not, knowing that the government has provided a record number of scholarships. Not every person is a scholar necessarily, but may want to have access to a tertiary education to the extent that they can, qualify for the highest level being university. So when may that be a possibility?
But you may know or you may not know that St. Lucia was offered a campus. Antigua has a campus. St. Lucia was offered a campus, which we did not accept. And I don't want to say anything more about it because I'll be accused of going in the past. I'll be accused of saying, well, that happened already, what are you going to do about it? You don't open, campuses are not opened that easily, right? The campus, the Five Eyes, when you have a campus in your territory, it's much easier. And this is why Barbados has so many graduates, because the campus is in Barbados, you understand? In St. Lucia, we've started a university for graduates. We have the scholarships, the first generation scholarships, a series of steps. As to what Antigua is doing, I'm not very clear, but like I know is Antigua has a campus in there, which will make it a lot easier for them, because the students are right there. You have to pay boarding, you have to pay accommodation, you just have to go to school, which is much simpler. So Antigua, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, with campuses on the ground, they have better opportunity than people without campuses on the ground.
Right. And do we foresee any, future?
Campus. A campus is a very serious place. I don't want to make. In fact, the University of the West Indies, what we have now, we have the continuing education, which we want to upgrade it little by little, and go in discussion with the University of the West Indies to see if they can increase if we can cause them to go into a program similar to what Monroe is doing. But that's work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
My name is Dale Elliott, and today I'm in the capacity of I'm a journalist for the UK Guardian. And I have
for who?
UK Guardian.
UK?
Yes. And my question is, 3 months after the US military strike that may have killed 2 St. Lucians, give us an update as to your discussions with the US.
The US have not given any more information than they gave from the beginning when it happened. They have not given any more information. So basically, there is no update from the US. They've given no other information from what I said in the beginning. So what I know is in St. Lucia, investigations are continuing, but from the US, we've got no update.
Okay. So I want you to take a moment as the Prime Minister of the country to explain to 2 families, Joseph Williams and Ricky Joseph. As leader, they have been killed in the supposed strike. What have you done to get the information to pass on to their family, their demise at sea?
We've asked the US. We cannot insist that the US gives us answers. The US, what the US has said is what they continue to say, and the sad thing is that we have had no further information on this matter.
What have you asked for directly?
We've asked the US what happened, and the information that they gave is what they have given. They have not given any other information.
What information?
And I can't say anything more.
What information have they given?
I am the same information you have, is what I have. You have more than me, possibly.
So I'm asking you in the capacity as a Prime Minister.
I'm asking you, and I'm telling you, you have the same information as I, and I'm answering no other question that because I have nothing else to tell you.
So this happened on February 13th. It is now 3 months later. 2 St. Lucian families are missing their breadwinners. As a person directly responsible for the people, the question is, what information has your office, from a diplomatic standpoint?
The same information you have there, that's all I have, and I can say nothing more.
Would you like to say anything directly to the families?
The same information you have, as I have already said, I have already expressed my deepest condolences to the families, and the Ministers of Equity will be in touch with them to see if we can give any further help to the families. As far as the cause or what happened, the only information, what you have is what I have. Believe it or not, I have nothing more.
Your take on the impact on the fishing sector from this U.S. strike?
Well, you know, you asking me questions that you know that I can answer. You know, you're aware of that. You're aware that the U.S. has been very tight-lipped to the entire world about the actions. You know that the U.S. have said they are targeting, they have certain targets that they go. You know that very well, and that's all I know. I know nothing more than you.
Then speak to our fishers, those who may have trepidations going out to sea, not knowing if and when they might be liquidated.
Yeah, but dear, how can I tell you what the U.S. will do? I have no information on the U.S. actions. The U.S. will not informed of the U.S. action. But you heard it for yourself. You heard it for yourself that the U.S. actions are done unilaterally. You know that. You know that. So I'm leaving the press. I can't tell you what I don't know. The U.S. acts unilaterally. The U.S. doesn't say to us what they do. They don't. You may not believe it, but that's a fact. The U.S. does not call them international currency. We're going to do X and Y. They act unilaterally.
Do you consider this an extrajudicial killing?
I will not answer that question.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, you hinted at it earlier, but I'm not sure if you're in a position to expound a bit, or maybe it might be a question for the Attorney General. So, you mentioned the Witness Protection Program. Now, I am aware that initially the proceeds from crime legislation or act, I'm not sure at what stage we are with it now, but proceeds from crime was supposed to help fund a Witness Protection Program. Additionally, you mentioned having discussions with some of your colleagues at CARICOM. Again, there were some discussions over a period of time for an exchange of witnesses among CARICOM nations and so on. But it's been a lot of talk. So I'm asking you, again, in previous discussions you said the matters are simple, a phone call would solve many things. So, and of course, while you were not here last week, I will ask you also to update on your meeting with the Prime Minister of Trinidad. But let's focus for now on the Witness Protection Program. You talk about resources and funding, but like I said, the Proceeds from Crime Act spoke to using some of those proceeds to fund that program and also dealing with it at a CARICOM level.
And some of the proceeds are used, I can tell you, they're not enough. But some are used, and I'm glad you spoke about CARICOM. If I had my way, this CARICOM meeting would have been, but I guess the Treaty of Chaguaramas, it has certain ways the CARICOM meeting must happen. If I had my way, this CARICOM meeting would be a retreat of prime ministers. If I had my way. I think we should sit for 2 days without all the grits and sit for 2 days and discuss these issues. If I had my way. But the treaty obligations say differently. But I think, you see, what you're saying is the nuts and bolts of CARICOM, the nuts and bolts of our region. I think this CARICOM meeting should be dealing with people's issues. Because I've always said that the only reason why we are here today, we should be seeing about the issues that affect people directly. And what you see, the CARICOM arrest warrants, the witness protection, the idea that you can, in terms of evidence, all these things should be, prime ministers should sit next to each other and discuss it unabridged.
But what are the impediments to not just talking but making them happen?
I wish I could list them for you, because I'll be the first one to tell you X, Y, Z. It's a lot of many different issues. The laws are different in each country. The constitutions are different. Because actually it's not a political union. What works is the CET. That works very well. Because that deals with goods produced in the region. You kind of ring fence them and you pay less duty. That works very well. CXC works very well. These things did not involve having to change domestic law, because all the constitutions are different. So you find, like the matter of freedom of movement, some islands have not. St. Lucia hasn't signed on to the complete freedom of movement as yet. We haven't signed on to it yet. Dominica and Barbados have done that because of our laws. That's a discussion we have to have. Then we speak about the domestic political situation. That's very important, because domestically, what's happening in domestic is very important as far as how you act, because you know the prime minister of CARICOM, you're the prime minister of a country, and sometimes the interests of your country may be different or may overlap the interests of CARICOM or the other way around. So it's very complex. You have a series of independent countries. So to tell you what are the impediments, I know them. How we solve them is the matter you have to do. And that is why we have to talk to each other as prime ministers. We have to talk to each other.
Okay, and before my final question, I still want to give you a nudge to have our Foreign Affairs Minister present, because we still have a lot of burning matters and questions to ask. A lot of global matters have taken place, as I mentioned earlier on, in the past few years. So there's still a number of questions that I think we need to put directly to your Minister of Foreign Affairs. That having been said, we've just come out of a huge mass crowd event. And on top of that, we're hearing news of another virus. And we haven't heard anything from anyone regarding the Ministry of Health or anyone. How is St. Lucia preparing to deal with that? Perchance there is some kind of breakout in country.
It's very, I'm smiling because there's some people in St. Lucia who think that there is no virus. And that's a matter of that these things are being created by like a vaccine, you know. It's a complex thing, but anyway, that's an aside. The Minister of Health has been in contact with the CMS, and he's coming to you in a while. So I guess he'll enlighten you on what steps they are taking. But I think Jazz went very well. I don't know. I think Jazz went very well. The participation was good. I think everybody enjoyed themselves. As far as I know, there have not been any major incidents at any of the shows, which I want to thank the public of St. Lucia for behaving in such a fashion, and congratulate the Minister and the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Lucia Tourism Association for putting a good show together.
Two questions from me, Mr. Prime Minister. You would have mentioned that you want prime ministers to talk to each other. Is that something you'd focus on? Because I think you're incoming as the...
Yeah, I just said to you a while ago, if I had my way, this CARICOM meeting would be a nuts and bolts meeting. If I had my way. Sit down and talk about what affects the people of the region. Because, you know, we in St. Lucia, there's a section of St. Lucia that would like us to believe that St. Lucia is the worst off. You understand? All the islands in the region have the same problems. The problems are the same. I don't want to mention any country, but the rate of crime in some of the countries, I mean, it's in weekends. I'm not the one of calling countries out. That doesn't mean our situation is good, you know. But sometimes we pretend that it's a unique situation. There seems to be an issue as far as crime and violence is concerned in the Caribbean region. There is a problem. What caused it? There's research happening. There is a problem. There's a problem. We have our own problems here, which we have to try to solve. That's no excuse. But the fact is, there seems to be a pandemic, particularly among young men. Particularly among young men. It seems to be something has entered the psyche of some of our young men. Underline the word some. It's not everybody, some of our young men. Some of them. And then we have to try to solve it. Not only in St. Lucia, but in the region. So we can, for our own personal reasons, we can highlight St. Lucia as our country. But the fact is, there seems to be a problem, a major issue with crime and violence and behavior generally. Emotional intelligence seems to be a major issue. And these are issues that we have to face. And we can politicize it. We can create, for our own personal political reasons, we can do it. But the fact is, that situation is there and it remains. And the sooner we get together and deal with it, the sooner we understand. Listen to me. And I know, and somebody has said, why am I saying December the 1st like that? I must say for that, because in December the 1st was the time when the people decided that, listen, we've done with the business of elections, let's do the business of the country. And that's why I repeat it. Because the people, it's the people are the ones who are the judges of these things. But there is an issue, there's a problem. I'm very passionate about it. The problem as it relates to some young men in this country. It's a big problem. You know, we have to face it. We have to face it. Same thing with the problem of our population. It's an issue we have to deal with. It's not as we play politics a bit or try to misinform. It's a problem. Let's look at solutions. The blame game will not work because it will happen to any other government. When the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's house. You see, there's no rain. So if you harvested my water as I will tell you, you will still have some water. You see, I still have my harvested water. You wouldn't believe that? I still have my tanks full. You understand? Harvested water. But again, people take it as for their own political thing. They take it as a joke, as if Prime Minister talk about harvesting water. These are serious issues that we try to because of our politics. We try to just minimize it and as if big answers to these problems. Nobody's saying where the money is coming from. No one is saying where the finances are coming from. No one is saying what's the level of taxation. No, just big, not even solutions. I have made a point about water. I thought it was 300 million. No, not 300 million. It's nearly $500 million to solve the water problems in this country. And when I come with a solution, a temporary solution, some people think it makes more sense to when in St. Papi show it. It's $500 million. Do you want me to increase the rates of water? So it's complex.
Finally from me, after, or rather during I'm not sure if you recall, the streamer who visited St. Lucia, Aisho Speed is his name. There was a lot of fanfare about it. There was a lot of media coverage here, but there was also chatter online among young people in the region asking for better connectivity among the islands, and certainly among the islands of the OACS. When I was in secondary school, we went to Grenada, and not sure if it still happens, but there's always some sort of exchange program. Do you want?
I can answer you right away. Air travel.
Yes.
Air connectivity. Before there was LIAT. There's no LIAT again. Again, money. Airlines are expensive to run. Airlines are expensive to maintain, particularly in these islands where you have to go short distances. Money. So the connectivity, great. Money.
Do you think regional leaders, at least within the OECS, would put not only heads but pockets together to ensure that we have this greater connectivity, especially among students, fostering cultural exchanges, networking. The time I went to Grenada, it was about 6 years or so, but I still know people from there, to ensure that because we have freedom of movement within the OECS, so to ensure that deeper and stronger bonds are built among our people.
I agree. I think something. All these things are necessary, but there's a reality we have to deal with, right? Where do we get money from to run a small island? Okay, and this is why if you heard me at the CIP conference, I urged members of the press, I urged them to be a little more cautious when they appear to want to go after something that they believe sounds exciting and will give them ratings. I urge them, right? And I'm urging them again, because you have to look at a historical concept, and I'm glad Mr. Ayler is a man of great research. You must look at the historical perspective in which we run these islands. Look at the history. Look at the history of these islands. What we've had to endure as a people, and what options do we have as a people to improve the quality of life of our people? What options do we have as a country for 185,000 people and 248 square miles? What options do we have? And look at what history has served us. Look at the impact of hurricanes. Look at what happens in this country when there's a hurricane. You have to borrow money to restore it. And then we have to pay whilst we are restoring. We've only now begun to put what is called vulnerability clauses in our loan agreements. I negotiated with the Saudis for the hospital, the central hospital. If there's a disaster, then you stop paying the loan. We just started doing that. So the reality, so when people jump up CIP, this, that, for the purposes of sounding, I don't know what, sounding high, I don't know. We have to look at the reality. What options do we have? What options do we have as a country? And which government will give other options? But so these are things we have to consider, and this is why I urge the press to be very cautious. And not that we want to deal with press freedom. We want to deal with press freedom, and look at where press freedom has gone in the bastion of democracy. So these are real issues that we have a country, and I'm ready to have that kind of discussion with people. We have a country to sit down and speak about. Must our press be always, let me put it right. Must the press always be agents of no, I won't say it. I'll be misquoted. And I know, I used to work in the press, you know. You must know. I used to work in the press. Tony knows that. I used to work in the press. I'm not going to say it, but I know what I want to say. I know what I want to say. You understand? And the time will come. You see, as I always tell you, my job is a temporary job. The time will come when all these things are on my back will be released, and I can see what I want to see, because I have a lot to see. I have a lot of things to say.
Untold stories.
I would love to say a little bit. I would love to say this, because the things I hear, I have a lot to say, but right now, I have a responsibility to the people of St. Lucia. I have a responsibility to the people who elected me, so I have to exercise constraint. But I have a lot of things to say. Because I hear a lot of things that are not right, that are not true. A lot of things. But right now, I'm burdened with the country, a country I love, a people I love, so I'm not saying anything. But there's a lot I have to say. A lot I have to say. And the time will come when my temporary job will come to an end, and hopefully I have the strength to write my book. And yes, that's my, I want to write a book. I want to do some writing when I live. Because you see, especially for young people, I respect young people, and I love young people. I think young people must be bold and innovative and ask questions, but young people must get the facts. And the sad thing is, Lucia, that young people don't know the facts. I see Mr. Elliott does it sometimes, or sometimes he does it most of the time. Sometimes he goes into untold stories, which is really a good show. Sometimes I don't believe some of it, but your motive is correct. Sometimes the result, sometimes I figure, could be a little different. But because there's essentially a lot of history, a lot of history. When you see players out there, there's a history to all of them, including me, have a history too. But my history has been consistent. I can say to myself, because we have to, you see, when someone enters into public life, people you become easy fodder. And when you become the Prime Minister, it's worse. You are easy fodder, you just come out. But I expect that, because I always say to you, that job is a temporary job. So no man will be able to tell me I never said it was a temporary job. I'll be in that job once the people want me to stay in it. And when I decide for myself, that's enough for me. It's a temporary job, but there's a lot to say. A lot to say. And I've got to write that book to say a lot of things that I have to say.
Okay, so
I see that happen, Ryan. A lot of things I have to say. There's a lot to say, my friend. A lot to say, a lot to say, a lot. Yes.
Okay, so quick follow-up, as you mentioned something that the Minister for Tourism spoke to as well, which is like our access to loans. So I want to know, I know that your administration has supported the Bridgetown initiative, as well as the reparations. The CARICOM 10-point plan for reparations includes loan, I think debt forgiveness as one of its demands. Mm-hmm. So, two questions. To what extent has the Bridgetown initiative been fruitful? And to, does St. Lucia support the debt forgiveness demand?
Very, very good question. To what extent it has been fruitful? And that's an issue for another time. We have all these great plans. We try our best, but in the final analysis, the big powers say no, and they change the goalposts. And that's why I told you about the history. Anytime we've tried to have some level of economic independence, something is put in the place. Anytime we try, just think about it. And that's why I want journalists to be careful. Anything we do, our bananas, we produce less than 1% of bananas in the world. St. Lucia could not produce as many bananas as Costa Rica. One farm in Costa Rica supplied more bananas than St. Lucia. But we were taken to task on a rules-based system. They couldn't find place for 1%. That's the reality. They couldn't find place. So we had to compete, of course, and our bananas went off. Financial services. They said, let's go into offshore banking and national trusts. And we went there. Then they said, oh, this discriminating. So we are placed for money launderers and corruption and this and that. Gone again. Out.
And the Bridgetown Initiative.
The Bridgetown Initiative, still work in progress. Work in progress. Still work in progress. And Prime Minister Mia Morton is working seriously on it, but it's work in progress. Because the major powers always seem to find some reason why there are impediments in these things. And they have. Oh, all right. CIP. I know that's where you want to go. The CIP program. When I say I don't mean you particularly. That's why everybody wants to go CIP. Everybody wants to go to CIP. The CIP program, right? We are asked to curtail or to stop our CIP program. Okay? People believe that we should not have a CIP program. Why? No matter what you do. First of all, our passport says where you're born. Very important, you know. It says where are you born. So if you present your passport at an immigration office and it says Sanusia passport but born in anywhere you want. I won't say Timbuktu. Right? Born anywhere you want, okay? The immigration officer can stop you. Very simple. But no, something wrong with that. Due diligence. The due diligence is done by American English firms. Firms do due diligence. No, it's not good enough. So, it's very complex. As to why, I have my own reasons. I have my own belief. I said to you, I can't say everything that I feel. I'll be irresponsible if I say everything I feel. I'll be very measured because of my job. But I believe I know why. But the reality is, that's what we have to live with. And while you're doing that, I have to say about the welfare of 185,000 people that I love dearly. I have to say about their education, their health. Look at the cost of health care. Look at the cost of health care. Health care is expensive. Not only for St. Lucia, health is expensive for the entire world. We want better health care. We need better health care. The reality is, what are the resources? Where are we getting the money from to do health care? So, so the Vision Initiative is work in progress, but it hasn't come in. What is happening now? We're trying to get vulnerability clauses in this law. That is a major step. Right? And the United Nations and some of the international financial institutions are trying to measure us not only on GDP, but on vulnerability. Right? Dr. Leon is doing a lot of work on that, on vulnerability. What are the possibilities of something happening to you? The vulnerability. So it's called the vulnerability index. So all that is work in progress. But to say it has materialized how you want it to, it has not.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Just one question from me. So since we are now leaving the dry season, going into the rainy season by next month, and of course we can also feel temperatures starting to change, starting getting a lot more hotter. And last week, after the WASCO press conference, they initiated, I believe it was about 8 or 9 named storms currently right now within the Atlantic Ocean. So moving forward into the rainy season, any updates on basically plans going forward for any potential storms, hurricanes moving forward for 2026?
I mean, you must have heard me say before, what keeps me up at night is the idea of a hurricane hitting St. Lucia, a major hurricane. Everything can go in a few hours. What I want to tell people is to make their own individual plans. If you know there's a tree that will fall on your house, cut it. Even if it gives you a few fruits, cut it because it may damage your house. Make your own individual plans. We as a people must take individual responsibility for our actions. If you the galvanize on your roof, go in there and try to nail it in place. Look at things, Look at things. Guttering. I've spoken to endlessly about guttering. These things are things that we can do individually. We have to learn as a people to take some individual responsibility for our own actions. Look at things that can mitigate against these disasters. It won't solve it against a category 5. It won't save us. But look at things. And so I want to urge people to take these small steps. Small steps, you understand? But very serious, very concerning. I heard these storms may be as ferocious as can be, but the government will put what they have put in place, but individuals must take their own responsibility.
And just one more follow-up from me. I know you constantly always been saying, especially when it comes to littering in the rivers and also dropping rubbish in the rivers. And I know some time ago you said you haven't took off the table of applying legislation into that. Is that option still on the table?
Yes, it's still on the table. Because up to this morning, when I'm coming to work, the whole other rivers littered. It's somebody who put it there, A human being is the one who threw it there. It didn't come down its own. And you don't know the millions of dollars that's saved by just not littering and simple things, It's almost hurtful. So from now we're going to start back the desilting of rivers. So the tractors that pass and clean it. Look for it next month. Fridge, stove, settee, mattress, just dump it in the river. I mean, come on. Is there an excuse for that? What's the human excuse for that one? The government? Pierre? What's the excuse for that one? Just dump it in the river? And there's a day when service passes and says, listen to me, that's all. And even though they don't take it that day, you must dump it in the river for that? I mean, you can't tolerate it, and these things are tolerated. That's individual responsibility that we must take as a people. We can't be blaming people for that. Look in the river. Everything there is thrown by somebody. There is nothing that came there on its own. Then what happens? It floods on Churchill Road. It floods there. It blocks. It blocks there. Then no matter how you try, so many things in that river that the country will always flood because there is too much garbage in the rivers. What will stop the flooding? Limit it. But I don't want some smart person to say, I see that. Limit the flooding is if we stop littering. Stop dumping in the rivers. Dear, why don't we have a show about that? You didn't want to already? Environmental. Seriously. I mean, take a camera and go and show people. And these are serious things, You save millions of dollars, my brother. Millions of dollars. To descend these rivers, it's going to cost us about $3 million. That's the budget, and that's not enough. What are you taking out there? Mainly garbage, and silt. Simple things. And we talk about crime and tolerance. Parents must teach their children tolerance. So this crime situation that people seem to want to blame the Prime Minister for, tolerance. Have we taught our kids how to be tolerant? Have we taught our kids how to have the basic manners? the basic respect. When I went to school and the teacher walked into the class, everybody stood up. That's what happened. I did the same for you, right? When you're in college, when the master was, everybody stands up. That's what basic things of respect. But we've thrown everything out of the window because of politics. Basic things. Do we teach our children that? This idea of children of anger. Have we tried to temper our children's anger? Do we? So a government can't do that, and you don't even need to do that, When you do that, it's just a matter of values. Have we got to the values of our children? Have we shown our children the values of respect, of tolerance? Or we say, si je veux, si quand veut, or come to school to handle that teacher. Not the amount of teachers who get threatened by parents. Every day, happened just last week in one of the schools. Parents threaten teachers. Every day. So what example are we setting? I want to blame the Prime Minister for these things. What example are you setting when parents can't go to the school and have a decent conversation with a teacher without a knife? These are things as a society, we cannot begin to tolerate it and play politics with it. We cannot. And the things we make a fuss with, the things for political reasons we try to make a fuss with and make a whole story. And that's why I refuse to answer these kind of things. A whole story with a song, a whole story, foolishness. Absolutely, a whole story. Diversions, take it away. Just go somewhere to create a diversion. And serious issues, there are serious issues we must deal with as a country. Very serious issues. I understand there are issues, but let's deal with it. I'm not get diverted with all kinds of things just to more attention from something to concentrate on me.
We'll take a final question from Mr. Tim.
Yes, lastly from me. You have touched on it briefly, but over the years, people have been calling for the nurturing of what is termed a knowledge society, where young people get an appreciation of the island's history, of the island's culture, of the island's values. I remember watching briefing once, and you'd have asked about whether civics is still taught in schools and these sorts of things. The research has shown that while many people may not regard this sort of teaching in schools and in society generally with high esteem, but it is these lessons in the classroom and at home, the appreciation of history and culture that would keep young people and citizens of a society grounded and keep them law-abiding and say, well, as opposed to committing this act, I will not do that, that's not right. Do you think, at least in this term, you would, let's say, impress on the Minister of Education a need to return to the basics, to return to the things that would have worked, to ensure that the students were turning over to the society are decent, are law-abiding, and so on?
Yes, I've been saying to all the time. In fact, you weren't here when I asked some senior journalists that were here to just do some training for the younger journalists. You understand? We have to have a reset in the society, a reset. You understand? And this is why I continuously say December the 1st. I say it continuously because that's what the people essentially decided what they wanted in the next 5 years. And I'm saying that there are serious issues that we need to sit as a people and discuss. And disagree, but discuss. And let's come to a common solution for some common problems. Problems that will stay even if the Prime Minister changes. These problems will not disappear. And I'm not asking for people not to exercise free speech. What I'm saying to you is that we have serious issues in this country. Serious issues that we need people to get together. The issue of crime and violence. Violence. People talk about crime. There is violence too, you know. It's two different, they're the same thing, but sometimes they manifest themselves in different ways. There is violence. The language we use, road rage. Because I was in Trinidad last week or something before, and I think I'm probably the only Prime Minister who stays in traffic. And in Trinidad, when the siren comes, the vehicles actually move aside in St. Lucia. And when you saw a man put his neck out on the highway because the Prime Minister of St. Kitts was passing, and man actually put his neck out of the car. These are simple things. These are very in Trinidad, in the other traffic. So there are very simple things that we do. You understand? So we need a reset. I mean, why are we generating such annoyance and hatred in this country? Like you always have to be vexed, moins fâché. We always have to be vexed. Why do you want a country that's always annoyed? Why? Seriously, somebody can answer me. Why do you want a country always annoyed? A country every day we want people to be annoyed. We want people to be agitated. We want people to call and deal with the Prime Minister every day. Why are we doing that? There's not one thing happening good in St. Lucia. Not one thing. There is nothing good happening in St. Lucia for us every day, for us to be in a mode of agitation, a mode of instigating people, a mode of inviting people to be dissatisfied every day. I want to know, nobody answers me. When I have a press conference and I ask the press questions, to get some answers from the press, like I put Dale on the other side and ask some questions. I'll be the interviewer and I'll ask some questions. You understand? And then you see how comfortable that is to be asked the questions.
Easy questions.
Huh? Easy answers?
I always ask you.
All right, gentlemen, thanks. Have a good week.
Thank you, Prime Minister. In just a moment, we will hear from the Minister of Health, Wellness and Nutrition, Honorable Moses Shabatis.
This year, a business facilitation unit will be established in the Department of Commerce to oversee the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business agenda. Mr. Speaker, a long-standing issue for the private sector has been an electronic single entry window. This issue has been on the table for discussion for almost 20 years. This is a significant ease of doing business cost reduction initiative for the private sector, which will eliminate duplication of entries, multiple applications for licenses or permits with broader agencies, and in-person visits to submit applications or payments.
We are finalizing the National Strategic Plan for Health 2025 to 2030, which we started work on in 2025 with the assistance of the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization. So, Mr. Speaker, we are finalizing a plan. The plan is complete, but we now have to include nutrition.
In 2026-27, we'll place greater emphasis on nutrition and healthy living. We will convene a national nutrition conference, initiatives to ensure balanced diet and portion control, expand workplace wellness and physical activity programs. Mr. Speaker, the fight against non-communicable diseases must begin not in the hospital, but in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities.
You know, Mr. Speaker, the cost of healthcare to the economy, most estimates put it at 1 to 8% of your GDP. And if you look at the OECS and St. Lucia in particular, it's costing St. Lucia, the St. Lucian economy, between $250 to $300 million just for NCDs, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, and some of the cancers and so on. Just imagine that, Mr. Speaker. If you take $300 million annually every year, $250 to $300 million, it's a cost. So focusing on healthcare and the work in healthcare is important because it costs us money.
Our final presenter is the Minister for Health, Wellness and Nutrition, Honorable Moses Jabatis.
Good afternoon, members of the press. I want to bring you up to date with information on two very important situations. One, we had a situation at the Betty Wells Urban Polyclinic. I also want to tell you about the Lamat Medical Mission. On May 8th, 2026, the Environmental Health Division within the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Nutrition conducted an assessment of the urgent care areas at the Dr. Betty Wells Urban Polyclinic after complaints from the staff. The findings reveal the presence of bed bugs in 2 locations in the urgent care area. The Environmental Health Division has taken action and measures have been initiated to eradicate the bed bugs at the locations that have been identified. In addition, general deep cleaning of the entire area has been done and more work will be done over the next few days. Work was done on Saturday, May 9th and Sunday, May 10th. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Nutrition continues to advise all persons who come to the clinics for services to ensure that, first of all, they adhere to the health protocols, whether in the community or at home. And we are going to ensure on our end that our officers do the best that we can to monitor situations like this and to ensure that the Environmental Health Division does what it does best, which is to eradicate bed bugs and other rodents and so on, to ensure that our clinics are safe. I also want to bring you up to date with another situation. We are very pleased to announce that the LAMAT, which is the Lesser Antilles Medical Assistance Team, completed its mission on Friday, May 8th, 2026. Over 1,000 patients were seen at the St. Jude Hospital. Cardiology services were provided to over 90 patients. Dental services at the St. Jude Hospital, 269 procedures were conducted, 109 x-rays, and an additional 127 patients were seen. Other procedures included endoscopies, colonoscopies. At the Owen King Ear Hospital, there were at least 45 vascular procedures, and we had 94 patients who had dental services. At the Ancillary Wellness Center, 42 patients were seen. in addition to 99 dental procedures that were conducted. At the Laclery Wellness Center, over 100 patients received dental procedures. Surgeries at the St. Jude Hospital, we had 43 surgeries, including the removal of gallbladders, hernias, and also hemorrhoid surgeries, and other surgeries including relating to soft tissue and so on. We are very pleased that the LAMA team also conducted training sessions with our local medical professionals, and there were a number of seminars where both the LAMA team and our team benefited from the experiences of both LAMAT and the teams in St. Lucia. I really want to thank the United States military. I want to thank the government of the United States, and also to thank the administrators at both the St. Jude Hospital, the Millennium Heights Medical Complex, and our other wellness centers where surgeries and other procedures were successfully done. As I said before, over 1,000 St. Lucians benefited from the interactions with the LAMAT team, and it indeed was another successful collaboration with LAMAT. Thank you. Any questions?
Three questions.
Mr. Minister, I've asked the question before, just asking again. The Hunter virus is the big health issue at the moment. We've heard from other regional territories. What is our position? Where are we? What is being done?
Okay, thanks very much. The Hunter virus, as we know, is a group of viruses which is carried by rodents, and we know that hantaviruses can cause severe disease in humans. People get infected through contact with infected rodents, either the droppings, the urine, or saliva, or direct contact. We also know that hantaviruses can cause severe respiratory illnesses, and there can be fatalities, as we've seen in an international case, which is ongoing at this time. In some cases, we also know that the hantavirus can also cause hemorrhagic fever, and this has been found in South America and also in other European countries. We know that the Andes virus is the one which is known for human-to-human transmission, and has been documented. The human-to-human transmission has been documented in Europe, Asia, and so forth. There are ongoing reports about the current situation which unfolded in the Atlantic, as we know. There are some fatalities, and the World Health Organization has issued several statements about the hantavirus outbreak in the Atlantic on the cruise ship. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Nutrition continues to monitor the situation, and we have protocols in place for the reporting of incidents like this on cruise ships. As we know, we are a tourist destination, and we have protocols in place when there is any respiratory, when we have symptoms of possible respiratory illness. There are protocols where the management of the ships would indicate to health officials in St. Lucia what the situation is, and our health officials will act according to the protocols that are in place. So our ministry, like ministries around the region, continue to monitor the announcements and also bulletins from the World Health Organization, and they are updating various regional bodies on the situation with the current hantavirus outbreak on that particular cruise ship. We do not have any information which suggests that the hantavirus outbreak is spreading widely. All of the information suggests that the outbreak is being contained as we speak. However, we can never be too certain with viruses and outbreaks, and therefore we'll continue to monitor the situation. Our ministry will certainly update you and update the country on any latest developments as they relate to the current hantavirus situation on the cruise ship.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Hi, good afternoon.
Going back briefly to the bedbug infestation at Betty Wells, we got reports that there is was such an infestation at the Grosway Polyclinic and Bexar. So I guess first, are these reports true? And my follow-up question would be, the medical staff at Betty Wells reported that they had been experiencing this issue for a few months, and they had been making calls for deep cleaning, which were ignored for a long time. So what plans are being put in place to ensure that this happens on a regular basis to avoid such an issue again?
I know that the work at the Dr. Betty Wells Polyclinic in terms of the rehabilitation of the whole building continues. Whenever we get reports of any problem at our wellness centers, our teams at environmental health and other teams in the ministry move in to ensure that we take care of the issues. I know that there have been reports in the past of whether it be sightings of rodents or other, whether it be bed bugs and so on at various institutions, and our teams go in to take care of it. I will certainly promise the people of St. Lucia, and also in particular the workers at the various medical institutions in St. Lucia, that anytime those reports reach the ministry, we do take it very seriously. I will certainly investigate the reports that are coming out that there was a previous report. I do not have the details on this right now, today, and this is an ongoing situation. The Dr. Betty Wells Urban Polyclinic was closed over the weekend, and right now I know the officials are currently assessing the situation to ensure that all other wellness centers are checked, and the Environmental Health Division is continuing to do that search. But it is for me as Minister for Health, Wellness and Nutrition to advise all residents, all St. Lucians, to ensure that we take all precautions to cause our own environments to be clean and free of whether it be rodents and pests and so on. I appreciate the fact that we do get situations like this at our various wellness centers, but in most cases, those rodents or insects, in most cases, get to the wellness centers or the facilities transported on the person of individuals who visit our wellness centers. So it is a two-pronged approach: one, to increase the level of sensitization and awareness in the public, so that individuals ensure that our homes are free of rats and other insects that will cause health problems. But also we as a ministry, we have a responsibility to ensure that we do regular checks, and that I can promise you will continue, and it will intensify based on the reports that we have received.
We'll take one final question.
Good afternoon. I think we would have come out of mental health awareness month. I think it was either last month or the month before. And I know there is now a director of mental health services. But increasingly, we're seeing an evolution of international best practices when it comes to mental health in the workplace, mental health at schools, and really it's now being considered one of the pillars of health in general. What is the ministry's policy position on on mental health awareness and mental health programs for workplaces. I would imagine, firstly, the public service, and as well as in schools for students.
Well, I know that the director of mental health and a team of individuals right across the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Nutrition, that I know that they're working on fine-tuning the policy for mental wellness, which will involve and include all of the issues that you have raised. I agree with you that increasingly mental health is becoming very topical, because not only because we are seeing a number of situations right here in St. Lucia across the Caribbean, but more and more mental health or mental wellness is recognized as a key factor, which is a factor which is very important in health and well-being. This mental health policy is being developed, and we are going to take it to cabinet. There will be discussions across St. Lucia and in the various sectors and also in the society at every level, and hopefully we can discuss with the people of St. Lucia what the government intends to implement. But we are still at the stage where this policy is being fashioned. It has not been taken to cabinet, and when this happens, you will know, the people of St. Lucia will know, and we are going to take it to the Parliament of St. Lucia for debate. Okay, thank you very much.
We have come to the end of this Monday's pre-cabinet press briefing, and the Office of the Prime Minister thanks you for your presence here. Have a good day.